Okay. Sunday, April 14th, 2024. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, chapter 9, entitled The Deliverance of Gopinatha Pattanayaka. All right. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll do some of the invocation verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's from the first chapter, the first 14, really the first 17 verses are the invocation verses. Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodida Godudaya Pushpan Batal Chitral Sandal Tamoduda. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali and to wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktabhupa Svupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jayatam Surtal Pangor Mammanamater Gati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojal Radha Madhana Mohanal. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vindaranya Kalpajumana Sriman Ratnagar Simasamastal Srimad Srila Radha Govinda Deva Pristali Sevyamani Smarami. In a temple of jewels in a forest of Vrindavan, beneath a desire tree, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer them my respectful obeisances. Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Staner Gopir Gopinatha Shriye Stuna. Sri Srila Gopinath, who is the inaugurator of the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands on the shore of Vamsivant and attracts all the cowherd damsels of Raja with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benedictions. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pite Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Garange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa to Yubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha, Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila, chapter 9, entitled The Deliverance of Gopinatha Pattanayaka. Gopinath, he's actually an incarnation of one of the Pandava brothers, as is Ramananda Roy, Bhaninath Roy. Okay, so, okay. The 9th chapter is summarized as follows. Gopinatha Pattanayaka, the son of Bhavananda Roy, was engaged in the service of the government, but he misappropriated some funds from the treasury. Therefore, the Bhadajana, the eldest son of King Prataparudra, ordered that he be punished by death. Thus Gopinatha Pattanayaka was raised on the Changa to be killed, but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he was delivered. Moreover, he was even promoted to a higher post. Okay, text 1. Aganya Danya Chaitanya Gananam Prema Banyaya Ninye Danya Janasvanta Maru Shashvat Anupatam. So this is Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami saying, the innumerable glorious followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought a constant flood to the desert-like hearts of the unfortunate with an inundation of ecstatic love. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Daya Moya, Jaya 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 Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Moya, Jaya Jaya Nityananda Karuna Ridaya. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most merciful incarnation. All glories to Lord Nityananda, whose heart is always compassionate. Jaya Advaita Charya Jaya Jaya Daya Maya Jaya Gora Bhakta Gana Sabarasa Maya. All glories to Advaita Acharya, who is very merciful. All glories to the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are always overwhelmed by transcendental bliss. E Mata Mahaprabhu Bhakta Gana Sange Nilatale Vasa Karena Krishna Prema Range. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, with his personal devotees, always merged in ecstatic love with Krishna. Antare Bahire Krishna Viraha Taranga Nana Bhave Vyakula Prabhura Mana Arahanga. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always felt waves of separation from Krishna, externally and internally. His mind and body were agitated by various spiritual transformations. Dine Nritya Kirtana Jagannatha Darshana Ratre Raya Svarup Sane Rasa Asvadana. During the day, he chanted, danced, and saw Lord Jagannath in the temple. At night, he tasted transcendental bliss in the company of Ramananda Roy and Sarup Damodar. People from the three worlds used to come visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who saw him received the transcendental treasure of love for Krishna. The inhabitants of the 7 higher planetary systems, including the demigods, the Gandharvas, and the Kinnaras, and the inhabitants of the 7 lower planetary systems, Patalaloka, including the demons and serpentine living entities, all visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the dress of human beings. Dressed in different ways, people from the 7 islands and 9 khandas visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so some context of 7 islands, right? So on the plain of Bhumandala, it's like the earthly plane. Then there's 7 islands. The middle island is called Jambudvip, Jambudvip. And then Jambudvip has 9 sections. One of the sections called Bharatavarsha, which is where we are. This is like super dimensional space. Okay, so this is the Antya-lila. So this is happening, let's say, somewhere between Lord Chaitanya's 30th and 48th year. So Lord Chaitanya, right, he appeared in Navadvip, 24 years old. He took sannyas, did a lot of travels, but his base was Jagannath Puri. But he was doing a lot of like overt preaching, South India and Vrindavan. Okay, so that was like 6 years, 24 to 30 years old. And then at 30, at 30, then he just stayed in Jagannath Puri, and he got more and more into his internal ecstasies at Jagannath Puri. Sometimes those internal ecstasies got disturbed by various events, such as we'll read in this chapter, but just some context here. So this is his period. He's just in Jagannath Puri, no more travels like that. And it's just like kirtan, meditation, prayer, japa, like that. Okay. Pralada Balivya Shuka Adi Munigana Asi Prabhu Deki Preme Haya Achetana. Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, Vyasadev, Shukadev Goswami, and other great sages came to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Upon seeing him, they became unconscious an ecstatic love for Krishna. So all these personalities visited Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. And okay. Being unable to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the populace outside his room would make a tumultuous sound. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go outside and tell them. What do you think he told them? Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Chant Hare Krishna. Exact words, precise. You got it exactly. Yeah. Prabhura Darshane Sabha Loka Preme Base Mate Yaya Prabhura Ratri Divase. All kinds of people would come to see the Lord, and upon seeing him, they would be overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed his days and nights. One day, people suddenly came, because that's like kind of the context and the preface to this chapter. Yeah. One day, people suddenly came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed him, Gopinath Pattanayaka, the son of Bhavananda Roy, has been condemned to death by the Bhada Jana, the eldest son of the king, and has been raised on the Changa. Okay, so it gets kind of gross. I mean, it gets quite intense. Purport by Prabhupada. The Changa was a device for killing a condemned person. It consisted of a raised platform on which the condemned was made to stand. Underneath the platform, there were stationary upright swords. The condemned man would be pushed down onto the swords, and in this way, he would die. For some reason, Gopinath Pattanayaka had been condemned to death and had therefore been raised upon the Changa. So this is one of like a close associate of Lord Chaitanya and the whole community there. And the king's son is about to do capital punishment, to kill him. Tale Kadga Patitare Upare Daribe Prabhu Raksha Karena Yabe Tabe Nistaribe. He has placed swords beneath the platform, they said, and will throw Gopinath upon them. O Lord, only if you protect him will he be saved. Bhavananda Roy and his entire family are your servants. Therefore, it is quite fitting for you to save the son of Bhavananda Roy. Prabhu kahe Raja kene kare tadana tabe se loka kahe sabha vivarana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, why is the king chastising him? Thereupon the people described the entire incident. Gopinatha Pattanayaka Ramananda Bai Sarvakala Hayatenha Raja Vishai. They said Gopinath Pattanayaka, the brother of Ramananda Roy, has always been a treasurer for the government. Ramananda Roy. Who wants to say who is Ramananda Roy? Pop quiz. You're not sure. He's associate of Lord Chaitanya. Damayanti speaking. Yes, he's a close associate of Lord Chaitanya.
They have a long conversation.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they had a long conversation. Yeah.
You just said earlier that he's an incarnation of one of the brothers.
Ramananda Roy is actually, yeah, he's actually an incarnation of Arjuna. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, so he's a major figure in Chaitanya Charitamrita, major personality. Yeah, I mean, you said there's 5 primary, major, substantial philosophical conversations in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, the philosophy is all over all the volumes, but 5 major conversations. One of them is with Ramananda Roy, but pretty much chapter 8 of the Antya-lila is the talks between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, and so yeah, so interestingly, yes. So Lord Chaitanya takes the role of student, and he's inquiring. It happens in South India, and he's inquiring from Ramananda Roy about spiritual life and Krishna consciousness and like that. And at first, Ramananda Roy, I mean, there's a whole thing. We're not going to go there because we're focusing on Ramananda Roy's brother, Gopinath Pattanayaka. But Ramananda Roy, he's like uncomfortable because, first of all, he knows who Lord Chaitanya is. But even from a social point, I mean, he knows who he is as combined appearance of Radha Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, Radha and Krishna combined. But even from a social point of view, Lord Chaitanya is a sannyasi and a Brahmin. Ramananda Roy, he was a powerful political person. He was actually a Sudra. So he was like a Sudra, and he's a householder. So he's like, well, how can I instruct you? And then at that point, Lord Chaitanya states a verse of Prabhupada quotes, Kiba Vipa Kiba Sudra Kenai, Ye Krishna Takvaveda Say Guru Haya. Lord Chaitanya says, well, one can be a Sudra, a sannyasi, one could be a woman, a man, a Vaishya, Vanaprastha, whatever one's positions in society, if one is knowledgeable, if one is expert in the science of Krishna, then he's qualified to be a true guru for the whole world. Ye Krishna Tattva Veda Say Guru Hai. Anasuya.
Hare Krishna. I'm preparing for class later today. And I was reading in chapter 8 of Antya-lila, text 23, that Ramananda Roy is also the incarnation of Viskaha, the gopi, a principal gopi that assisted Srimati Radharani. So I just wanted to share that as well. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for that. Yeah, he's so kind of like Arjuna partially incarnates as Ramananda Roy and the gopi Vishaka, and sometimes it said the gopi Lalita. So this gets very esoteric. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so it makes sense that we're absorbing Chaitanya Charitamrita later today. We'll have our Chaitanya Charitamrita study group, and we've been doing this since like 2000. We've been doing this for like 7-8 years, and we're in Antya-lila now. We're in chapter 5, and we do like rotating facilitators. It's 6-week modules, and this time Anasuya is facilitating. We got devotees from New Zealand and England, Europe, and Czech. So today we have the study group, and it's a chapter that features Ramananda Roy in very special ways. That's in chapter 5 of the Antya-lila. So okay, so Gopinath. So the devotees come to Lord Chaitanya. And they said, Gopinatha Pattanayaka, the brother of Ramananda Roy, has always been a treasurer for the government. So they're beginning to tell the story. And just to get the thing, in his pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya is really getting to the part of his pastimes, which is just like deep meditation. So in one sense, he doesn't really want to get involved, the king and the politics, and this one was the treasurer. But of course, he has such affection for Gopinatha Pattanayaka. He says, okay, what's happening? Gopinatha Pattanayaka is the brother of Ramananda Roy, has always been a treasurer for the government. He served in the place known as Malajatya Dandapata, soliciting and collecting money there and depositing it in the government treasury. Once, when he deposited the collection, however, a balance of 200,000 kahanas of conch shells was due from him. Therefore, the king demanded this sum. Gopinath Pattanayaka replied, there is no money I can immediately give you in cash. Please give me time. Gradually, I shall purchase and sell my gross goods, and in this way, fill your treasury. There are 10 to 12 good horses. Take them immediately for a proper price. After saying this, he brought all the horses to the door of the king. Eka Raja Putra Godar, Mulya Balajane, Tare Antya-lila Raja Patra Mitra Sane. One of the princes knew how to estimate the price of horses very well. Thus the king sent for him to come with his ministers and friends. So the king is Maharaj Prataparuja, who's another major figure in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maharaj Prataparuja, major personality. At one point, he's the king. He humbly sweeps the ground in front of Lord Jagannath before the Jagannath Ratha Yatra, and with his humility, because Lord Chaitanya didn't want anything to do with him. He's a king and it's worldly, but Maharaj Prataparuja, with his humble devotion, ultimately got an audience with Lord Chaitanya. Very sweet, very heart-rending. So the king says, okay, well, one of my princes will, and we'll just forget the scene here. I mean, Gopinath Pattanayaka is pure devotee at the same time, kind of. He's not saying that he didn't do something with the 200,000 kahanas. Anyway, just we're getting the picture here. Okay. So, say Rajaputra Mulya Kare Gatana, Gopinathera Kroda Hoila Mulya Shriya. The prince, however, purposely gave a reduced estimate for the value of the horses, just worldly dealings. Okay. When Gopinath Pattanayaka heard the prince quoted, he was very angry. Se Raja Putrera Svabhava Griva Piraya, Ordva Mukhe Bara Iti Uti Chaya. So the Gopinath Pattanayaka says that prince has a personal idiosyncrasy of turning his neck and facing the sky, looking here and there again and again. He's sort of mocking a tick. He's kind of mocking like a personal idiosyncrasy of because he's angry that he didn't give the price that he wanted. Worldly stuff, okay. Taraninda kari kahe sagar barbachane, Raja kripa kare tate bayanahi mane. Gopinath Pattanayaka criticized the prince. He was unafraid of the prince because the king was very kind toward him. Gopinath Pattanayaka said, my horses never turn their necks or look upward. Therefore, the price for them should not be reduced. Following, he's saying like, yeah, the prince has this strange idiosyncrasy. My horses don't, so you should pay more for them. So it's just like the prince, but Gopinath Pattanayaka, he's feeling protected because he's friends with the king. Shuni Rajaputra Mane Krodha Upajila Rajaratani Bahu Lagani Kavila. Hearing this criticism, the prince became very angry. Going before the king, he made some false allegations against Gopinath Pattanayaka. This Gopinath Pattanayaka, he said, is unwilling to pay the money due. Instead, he is squandering it under some pretext. If you issue an order, I can put him on the changa and thus realize the money. Raja Bale ye bala se karayaya, ye upaye kodi paye kara se upaya. The king replied, you can adopt whatever means you think best. Any device by which you can somehow or other realize the money is all right. Thus the prince went back, raised Gopinath Pattanayaka onto the platform of the changa, and spread swords below upon which to throw him. Shuni Prabhu kahe kichu kari pranaya rosha, Raja kadi dite nare Rajara kibadosha. After hearing this explanation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied with affectionate anger, Gopinath Pattanayaka does not want to pay dues to the king, the Lord said. How then is the king at fault in punishing him? Lord Chaitanya continues, Gopinath Pattanayaka is in charge of collecting money on behalf of the government, but he misappropriates it. Not fearing the king, he squanders it to see dancing girls. Lord Chaitanya knows what's happening. Ye chatura se kuruka raja vishaya raja dravya shodhipaya tara karuka vyaya. If one is intelligent, let him perform service to the government, and after paying the government, he can spend whatever money is left. At that time, another person came there in great haste, bringing the news that Vaininath Rai and his entire family had been arrested. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the king must personally realize the dues. I am but a sannyasi, a member of the renounced order. What can I do? Tabe svaru padiyata prabhura bhaktagana prabhura charane sabe koila nivedana. Then all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submitted the following plea. Ramananda Rayera Goshti Sabatomara Das Tomar Uchita Nahe Aichana Udas. All the members of Ramananda Roy's family are your eternal servants. Now they are in danger. It is not befitting for you to be indifferent to them in this way. Shuni Mahaprabhu Kahe Sakroda Vachane More Agya De Sabe Agya Rajastani. After hearing the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke in an angry mood. You want to order me to go to the king, he said. Your opinion is that I should go to the king's palace and spread my cloth to beg money from him. Of course, a sannyasi or Brahmin may beg for up to 5 gandas, but why should he be granted the inappropriate sum of 200,000 kahanas of conch shells? So Lord Chaitanya has affectionate anger. He's not appreciating getting involved in all these dealings, yeah? Hina kale ara loka oila dana kade gara upare gopinate diteche daria. Then another person came with the news that Gopinath had already been set up to be thrown upon the points of the swords. Hearing this news, all the devotees again appealed to the Lord, but the Lord replied, I am a beggar. It is impossible for me to do anything about this. Therefore, if you want to save him, you should all pray together at the lotus feet of Jagannath. Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He possesses all potencies. Therefore, he is able to act freely and can do and undo whatever he likes. Ihanyadi Mahaprabhu eteka kahila Hari Chandan Patriyae Rajare kahila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied in this way, an officer named Hari Chandan Patra went to the king and spoke with him. After all, he said, Gopinath Pattanayaka is your faithful servant. To condemn a servant to death is not good behavior. His only fault is that he owes some money to the government. If he is killed, however, what profit will there be? The government will be the loser, for it will not get the money. It would be better to take the horses for a proper price and let him gradually repay the balance. Why are you killing him unnecessarily? Raja kahe eva ame nahi jani pranakene la eba taradravya chahi ami. The king answered in surprise, I did not know about all this. Why should his life be taken? I only want the money from him. Go there and adjust everything. I want only the payment, not his life. Hari Chandan then returned and informed the prince of the king's desire, and immediately Gopinath Pattanayaka was taken down from the changa. Then he was told that the king demanded the money due him and asked what means he would adopt to pay it. Kindly take my horses, he replied, for a proper price. I shall gradually pay the balance as I can. Without consideration, however, you are going to take my life. What can I say? Yatarta mulikari tabesava godalaila aradraviera mudatikari gare pataila. Then the government took all the horses for a proper price. A time was set for payment of the balance, and Gopinath Pattanayaka was released. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from the messenger, what was Vaininath doing when he was arrested and brought there? The messenger replied, he was fearlessly and incessantly chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sankhya Gidui Hante Anguli Te Leka Sahasradi Purna Horle Ange Kate Reka. He counted the chants on the fingers of both hands, and after he had finished chanting 1,000 times, he would make a mark on his body. Everyone knows how to count japa on fingers. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's, in the joints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that's one round, 1, 2 rounds. I've many times I've been without japa beads and wanted to chant rounds. So Lord Chaitanya, it's described, when he was traveling especially, he would chant on his fingers and count his rounds on his fingers. There's Allison has a slightly different way. Yeah.
Bharat taught me though.
But Bharat taught you, okay, yeah. I have a slightly different method, but it's with the joints on the fingers. Good to know. Okay. Hearing this news, the Lord was very pleased. Who can understand the mercy of the Lord upon his devotee? At that time, Kashi Mishra came to the residence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord talked with him with some agitation. Kashi Mishra, okay, Kashi Mishra, important personality. When Lord Chaitanya first arrived in Jagannath Puri from Navadvip, after he took sannyas and spent some time with his mother and Advaitacharya and Lord Nityananda and had big prasadam fun, and he came to Jagannath Temple. He fainted. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought him in, and that's another major conversation, philosophical conversation, Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya described particularly in chapter 6 of the Antya-lila. So then basically Kashi Mishra, he's a resident of Jagannath Puri, and he basically arranged for Lord Chaitanya to stay at one of his places in Jagannath Puri. So all this time, really these, so these 24 years based in Jagannath Puri, especially the last 18 years, Lord Chaitanya, he's staying at a place rent-free, provided by Kashi Mishra. Okay, so Kashi Mishra, special devotee. So the Lord talked with him with some agitation. Ihan rahite narayamu alalana nat nana upadrava ihan na pai soyata. I cannot stay here any longer, the Lord said. I shall go to Alalanat. There are too many disturbances here and I cannot get any rest. Bhavananda Rayera Goshti Kare Raja Vishaya Nana Prakare Kare Tara Raja Dravya Vyaya. All the family members of Bhavananda Roy are engaged in government service, but they spend the government's revenue in various ways. What is the fault on the part of the king? He wants the government's money. However, when they are punished for failing to pay the government its due, they come to me to release them. When the king put Gopinatha Pattanayaka on the changa, messengers came 4 times to inform me about the incident. As a beggar sannyasi, a mendicant, I wish to live alone in a solitary place, but these people come to tell me about their unhappiness and disturb me. Jagannath has saved him once from death today, but if tomorrow he again does not pay what he owes the treasury, who will give him protection? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead will certainly protect a devotee who does something sinful accidentally. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 30 and 31, Apichet Sudarat Sharo Vajanti Mamananya Bhak Sadareva Samantavya Samyag Vyavasito Hisa Kshiprambhavati Dharmatma Shachvach Jantim Nigachati Kwanteya Patijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Quote, even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. However, if a devotee or so-called devotee purposefully commits sinful activities continually in the hope that Krishna will give him protection, Krishna will not protect him. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kali Kehera Kibeyade Nanti Beira Jadan. Jagannath has saved Gopinatha Pattanayaka from being killed by the king today, but if he commits the same offense again, who will give him protection? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus warns all such foolish devotees that Jagannath will not protect them if they continue to commit offenses. So that section of Bhagavad Gita, that verse, text 30, it's arguably the most misused verse in Bhagavad Gita, in all of Prabhupada's teachings. And here, and in the purport in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes this is not to be misused. Like, oh, I can do whatever I want, but I'll chant rounds, and then I'm saintly situated. No, Prabhupada emphasized one needs to actually experience remorse and transformation. I won't go into it much, but I know from my beginning of the days directing the Child Protection Office starting in '98, we would hear that a lot, like, oh, he's, yeah, well, maybe he did this and that to children, but he comes to Mangalarti and chants rounds, so there shouldn't, like that. So it's such an important verse, And at the same time, Prabhupada so much emphasizes not to exploit this, not to misuse that. It's based on genuine transformation of heart. Okay. Vishayira Vartashuni Kshubdha Hayamana Tate Ihan Rahimora Nahi Prayojana. If we hear about the activities of materialistic persons, our minds become agitated. There is no need for me to stay here and be disturbed in this way. Kashi Misra caught hold of the Lord's lotus feet and said, "Why should you be agitated by these affairs? You are a renounced sannyasi. What connections do you have? One who worships you for some material purpose is blind to all knowledge." And I'll read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Becoming a devotee of the Lord to serve material purposes is a great mistake. Many people become showbottle devotees for material profits. Indeed, materialistic persons sometimes take to professional devotional service and keep Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a means of livelihood. None of this, however, is approved. In the book known as Saptasati, as mentioned by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, one can discover how a person worshipping the goddess Durga begs her for different varieties of material profit. Such activities are very popular among people in general, but they are the attempts of foolish, blind people, say Jnana Anda. A materialist does not actually know why one should become a devotee. A devotee's only concern is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotional service is defined by Srila Rupa Goswami. Antya-lila shita sunyam jnana karmadinavridam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should be completely free from all material desires and should serve Krishna simply to please him. When people become interested in their own sense gratification, bhukti mukti siddhikami, some of them desire to enjoy the material world to the fullest extent. Some of them desire to be liberated and merge into the existence of Brahman, and others want to perform magic through mystic power and thus become incarnations of God. These are all against the principles of devotional service. One must be free from all material desires. The desire of the impersonalist to merge into the existence of Brahman is also material, because such an impersonalist wants to gratify his senses by merging into the existence of Krishna instead of serving his lotus feet. Even if such a person merges into the Brahman effulgence, he falls down again into material existence, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 32. Because Mayavadi philosophers have no information regarding the transcendental service of the Lord, even after attaining liberation from material activities and merging in the Brahman effulgence, they must come down again to this material world. Okay, so we'll read a bit more from the pastime, and then we welcome comments, questions. Tomara bhajana pale tomate premadan vishaya laki tomaya bhajesaya morkajan. Kashi Mishra continued, if one engages in devotional service for your satisfaction, this will result in his increasingly awakening his dormant love for you. But if one engages in your devotional service for material purposes, he should be considered a number one fool. I'm going to read the purport. Prabhupada's purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur comments that there are many materialistic persons who become preachers, gurus, religionists, or philosophers only for the sake of maintaining a high standard of living and sense gratification for themselves and their families. Sometimes they adopt the dress of a sannyasi or preacher. They train some of their family members as lawyers and continually seek help from a high court to acquire riches on the plea of maintaining temples. Although such persons may call themselves preachers, like in Vrindavan or Navadvip, and also print many religious books, it is all for the same purpose, namely to earn a living to maintain their wives and children. They may also professionally recite the Bhagavatam or other scriptures, worship the deity in the temple, and initiate disciples, making a show of devotional paraphernalia. They may also collect money from the public and use it to cure the disease of some family member or near relative. Sometimes they become Babajis or collect money on the plea of worshiping the poor, whom they call Daridra Narayan, or for social and political upliftment. Thus, they spread a network of business schemes to collect money for sense gratification by cheating people in general who have no knowledge of pure devotional service. Such cheaters cannot understand that by offering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be elevated to a position of eternal servitude to the Lord, which is even greater than the position of Brahma and other demigods. Unfortunately, fools have no understanding of the perpetual pleasure of devotional service. Text 70. Tomalagi Ramananda Rajit Tyaga Koila Tomalagi Sanatana Vishaya Chadila. It is only for your sake that Ramananda Roy resigned from the governorship of South India, and Santan Goswami gave up his post as minister. It is for your sake that Raghunath Das gave up all his family relationships. His father sent money and men here to serve him. However, because he has received the mercy of your lotus feet, he does not even accept his father's money. Instead, he eats by begging alms from centers for the distribution of food. Gopinath Pattanayaka is a good gentleman. He does not desire material benefits from you. It is not Gopinath who sent all those men so that you would release him from his plight. Rather, his friends and servants, seeing his distressed condition, informed you because they all knew that Gopinath is a soul surrendered unto you. Gopinath Pattanayaka is a pure devotee who worships you only for your satisfaction. He does not care about his personal happiness or distress, for that is the business of materialist. One who engages in your devotional service 24 hours a day, desiring only your mercy, will very soon attain shelter at your lotus feet. And then a well-known verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, quoted by Kashi Mishra. This is the verse: when things are going wrong and bad, Lord Brahma says, the devotee just goes deeper in their enthusiasm to serve Krishna. So this is Tate no kampam susamikshama bunjana evan makritam vipakam vidvagva purbir vidatan namaste jivota yo mukti pade sadayabak. This one who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past misdeeds, who always engages in your devotional service with his mind, words, and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. Etatomi vasiraha keneya be alalatant alalanat kehatoma na shunabe vishayiravat. Kindly stay here at Jagannath Puri. Why should you go to Alalanat? Henceforward, no one will approach you about material affairs. Finally, Kashi Mishra told the Lord, if you want to give protection to Gopinath, then Lord Jagannath, who protected him today, will also protect him in the future. After saying this, Kashi Mishra left the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and returned to his own temple. At noon, King Prataparuja came to Kashi Mishra's home. As long as King Prataparuja stayed in his capital, Purushottama, he performed one regular duty. He would come daily to the house of Kashi Mishra to massage his lotus feet. The king would also hear from him about how opulently Lord Jagannath was served. When the king began pressing his lotus feet, Kashi Mishra informed him about something through hints. My dear king, he said, please hear one uncommon item of news. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to leave Jagannath Puri and go to Alalanat. When the king heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Alalanat, he was very unhappy and inquired about the reason. Then Kashi Mishra informed him of all the details. When Gopinath Pattanayaka was lifted onto the Changa, he said, all his servants went to inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hearing about this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely sorry at heart, and in anger he chastised Gopinath Pattanayaka. Because he is mad after sense gratification, the Lord said, he acts as a government servant, but spends the government's revenue for various sinful activities. Brahmasva dika e hayara jadan Tahai Bogakai Mahapapi John. The revenue of the government is more sacred than the property of a Brahmin. One who misappropriates the government's money and uses it to enjoy sense gratification is most sinful. One who serves the government but misappropriates the government's revenue is liable to be punished by the king. That is the verdict of all revealed scriptures. The king wanted his revenue paid and did not want to enforce punishment. Therefore, the king is certainly very religious. But Gopinath Pattanayaka is a great cheat. He does not pay the revenue to the king, but he wants my help for release. This is a greatly sinful affair. I cannot tolerate it here. Therefore, I shall leave Jagannath Puri and go to Alalanath, where I shall live peacefully and not hear about all these affairs of materialistic people. When King Prataparuja heard all these details, he felt great pain in his mind. I shall give up all that is due from Gopinath Pattanayaka, he said, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stays here at Jagannath Puri. If even for a moment I could get an interview with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I would not care for the profit of millions of Chintamani stones. In the spiritual world, every atom is a Chintamani stone, a transcendental jewel. I do not care about the small sum of 200,000 kahanas. Not to speak of this, I would indeed sacrifice everything at the lotus feet of the Lord, including my life and kingdom. So you can hear the devotion of Maharaj Prataparudra. Mishra kahe kare chadiba nahe prabhura mana tara dukkha paya e nayaya sahana. King Kashi Mishra hinted to the king, it is not the Lord's desire that you forfeit the payment. He is unhappy only because the whole family is troubled. The king replied, I have no desire to give pain to Gopinath Pattanayaka and his family, nor did I know about his being lifted on the changa to be thrown on the swords and killed. He sneered at Purushottama Jana. Therefore, the prince tried to scare him as a punishment. Purushottama Jana, that's the son of the king that had the disagreement with Gopinath Pattanayaka. Go personally to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and keep him at Jagannath Puri with great attention. I shall excuse Gopinath Pattanayaka from all his debts. Kashi Mishra said, excusing Gopinath Pattanayaka of all of his debts will not make the Lord happy, for that is not his intention. The king said, I shall absolve Gopinath Pattanayaka of all his debts, but don't speak of this to the Lord. Simply let him know that all the family members of Bhavananda Roy and Gopinath Pattanayaka are naturally my dear friends. Bhavananda Roy is worthy of my worship and respect. Therefore, I am always naturally affectionate to his sons. After offering obeisances to Kashi Mishra, the king returned to his palace and called for both Gopinath and the eldest prince. The king told Gopinath Pattanayaka, you are excused for all the money you owe the treasury, and the place known as Malajatya Dandapata is again given to you for collections. Do not again misappropriate the revenue of the government. In case you think your salary insufficient, henceforward it will be doubled. After saying this, the king appointed him by offering him a silken wrapper for his body. Go to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, after taking permission from him, go to your home. I bid you farewell, now you may go. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can certainly become spiritually advanced. Indeed, no one can estimate the results of his mercy. Gopinath Pattanayaka achieved the result of kingly opulence due to but a glimpse of the Lord's mercy. Therefore, no one can calculate the full value of his mercy. Gopinath Pattanayaka was lifted onto the changa to be killed, and all his money was taken away, but instead his debts were excused, and he was appointed collector in the same place. On one hand, Gopinath Pattanayaka was unable to clear his debt even by selling all his possessions, but on the other, his salary was doubled, and he was honored with a silken wrapper. It was not the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Gopinath Pattanayaka be excused of his debt to the government, nor was it his desire that his salary be doubled or that he be reappointed collector at the same place. When Gopinath Pattanayaka's servant went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed the Lord of his plight, the Lord was somewhat agitated and dissatisfied. The Lord had no intention to award his devotee the happiness of material opulence. yet simply because of his being informed, such a great result was obtained. No one can estimate the wonderful characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the intentions of the Lord. Kashi Mishra went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed him in detail of all the king's intentions. Upon hearing about Kashi Mishra's tactics with the king, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kashi Mishra, what have you done? You have made me indirectly take help from the king. Srila Prabhupada's purport. When the king heard the details of Gopinatha Pattanayaka's unfortunate condemnation, he was induced to excuse his debt, in particular because he felt that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very sorry about the incident. The Lord did not like the idea that the money forfeited to Gopinatha Pattanayaka was indirectly a contribution to him. Therefore, he immediately protested. He didn't want any perception that, the king gave him a favor, so now he has some material obligation to the politician like that. Kashi Mishra said, my dear Lord, the king has done this without reservations. Kindly hear his statement. The king said, speak to the Lord in such a way that he will not think, for my sake, the king has forfeited 200,000 kahanas or kaudis. Prabhupada has a purport. He gives the currency equivalent of American dollars or Japanese yen about what a kahana was in those days. I'm not going to read the purport, but Prabhupada goes into such detail. Inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that all the sons of Bhavananda Roy are especially dear to me. I consider them like members of my family. Therefore, I have appointed them collectors in various places. And although they spend the government's money, eat, drink, plunder, and distribute as they like, I do not take them very seriously. I made Ramananda Roy the governor of Raja Mahindri. There is practically no account of whatever money he took and distributed in that position. Gopinatha e mate vishaya kariya duichari lakshakahana raheta kana. Having been appointed collector, Gopinath in the same way also generally spends 200,000 to 400,000 kahanas as he likes. Gopinatha Pattanayaka would collect some and pay some, spending it at will, but I would not consider this very seriously. This time, however, he was put in trouble because of a misunderstanding with the prince. The prince created this situation without my knowledge, but actually I consider all the sons of Bhavananda Roy to be like my relatives. Because of my intimate relationship with them, I have absolved Gopinath Pattanayaka of all his debts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not know this fact. Whatever I have done is because of my intimate relationship with the family of Bhavananda Roy. Having heard from Kashi Mishra all these statements concerning the king's mentality, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy at that time. Bhavananda Roy also arrived there. Bhavananda Roy, along with his 5 sons, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who lifted him up and embraced him. Ramananda Roya Adi Sabai Melila Bhavananda Roya Tabe Balite Lagila. Thus Ramananda Roy, all his brothers and their father met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Bhavananda Roy began speaking. All these members of my family, he said, are your eternal servants. You have saved us from this great danger. Therefore, you have purchased us for a proper price. You have now demonstrated your love for your devotees, just as when you previously saved the 5 Pandavas from great danger. They're incarnations of the Pandavas. Gopinath Pattanayaka, his head covered with a silken wrapper, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and described in detail the king's mercy toward him. The king has excused me for the balance due, he said. He has reappointed me to my post by honoring me with this silken cloth and has doubled my salary. I was lifted upon the changa to be killed, but on the contrary, I was honored with this silken cloth. This is all your mercy. On the changa, I began meditating upon your lotus feet, and the power of that remembrance has yielded all these results. Hare Krishna. Struck with wonder by my affairs, the populace is glorifying the greatness of your mercy. However, my Lord, these are not the principal results of meditating upon your lotus feet. Material opulence is very flickering. Therefore, it is simply a glimpse of the result of your mercy. Srila Prabhupada's purport. One can achieve the highest perfection of life simply by meditating upon the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Generally, people are concerned with the four religious principles, namely religion, material opulence, sense gratification, and liberation. However, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Bhojta Kortavatra, success in these four kinds of material and spiritual gain are not the true results of devotional service. The true result of devotional service is the actual development of one's dormant love for Krishna in every circumstance. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopinath Pattanayaka could understand that the material benefits he had achieved were not the ultimate result of meditating upon his lotus feet. The true result comes when one is dedicated, when one is detached from material opulences. Therefore, Gopinath Pattanayaka prayed to the Lord for such detachment. Rama Raye Vani Nate Koila Nirvashaya, Se Kripa Mote Nahi Yate Aiche Haya. Your real mercy has been granted to Ramananda Roy and Vaninath Roy, for you have detached them from all material opulence. I think that I have not been favored by such mercy. Kindly bestow upon me your pure mercy so that I may also become renounced. I am no longer interested in material enjoyment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you all adopt the renounced order and lose interest in dealing with pounds, shillings, and pence, who will take charge of maintaining your large family? Whether you are involved in material activities or become completely renounced, you five brothers are all my eternal servants, birth after birth. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that one should remember that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. Whether one is engaged in material activity involving pounds, shillings, and pence, or is in the renounced order, he should always think that he is an eternal servant of God, for that is the real position of the living being. Taking sannyas and dealing in pounds, shillings, and pence are both external affairs. One should always consider how to please and satisfy Krishna. Thus, even if one is involved in great material affairs, he will not become attached. As soon as one forgets that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes involved in material attachments. However, if one is always conscious that Krishna is always the supreme master and that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he is a liberated person in any condition. Entangling material activities will not affect him. Kintu mora kariya eka agya palana vyayana kariya kichu rajara muladana. However, just obey one order for me. Do not spend any of the king's revenue. First, you should pay the revenue due the king, and then you may spend the balance for religious and fruitive activities. Don't spend a farthing for sinful activities, for which you will be the loser both in this life and the next. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made them farewell. Thus, the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was spoken of in the family of Bhavananda Roy. That mercy was clearly demonstrated, although it appeared to be something different. Purport. The result of advancement in spiritual knowledge is not material improvement. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Gopinath Pattanayaka how to use material opulence without incurring reactions to sinful life. From this advice, it appeared that the Lord encouraged Gopinath Pattanayaka to enhance his material condition. Actually, however, he did not. In fact, this was but a manifestation of his great affection for his devotee. Coming to the last verses of the chapter, text 146. Sabaya alingia prabhu vidaya yabedila haridvani kari sabha bhakta utigela. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all and bade them farewell. Then all the devotees got up and left, loudly chanting the holy name of Hari. Seeing the extraordinary mercy the Lord granted to the family of Bhavananda Roy, everyone was struck with wonder. They could not understand the behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, when all the devotees had requested the Lord to bestow his mercy upon Gopinath Pattanayaka, the Lord had replied that he could do nothing. Purport. When a person is sinful, he loses both the chance for spiritual advancement and the chance for material opulence. If one enjoys the material world for sense gratification, he is certainly doomed. Advancement in material opulence is not the direct mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nevertheless, it indicates the indirect mercy of the Lord, for even a person too attached to material prosperity can gradually be detached and raised to the spiritual platform. Then he can offer causeless, purified service to the Lord. When Sri Chaitanya said, "Amahoy te kichunai," it is not my business to do anything, he set the ideal example for a person in the renounced order. If a sannyasi takes the side of a Vishayi, a person engaged in material activities, his character will be criticized. A person in the renounced order should not take interest in material activities, but if he does so out of affection for a particular person, that should be considered his special mercy. Gopinathara nindahara apana nirveda e matra kahila ihara na buchi beda. I have simply described the chastisement of Gopinath Pattanayaka and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's indifference, but the deep meaning of this behavior is very difficult to understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave so much to Gopinath Pattanayaka without directly making requests of either Kashi Mishra or the king. The intentions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are so deep that one can understand them only if he has complete faith and service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Whether or not one understands it, if one hears of this incident concerning Gopinath Pattanayaka's activities and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon him, certainly he will be promoted to the platform of ecstatic love for the Lord, and for him all dangers will be nullified. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pattanayaka, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Krishna Das, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, 9th chapter, describing the deliverance of Gopinath Pattanayaka and the manifestation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy to his devotee. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving oral reception to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada often emphasizes Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, every word is perfect. Every word is perfect, perfectly transcendental. Hare Krishna. If anyone would like to share, ask, comment, any realizations, inspirations, questions at this time. Kind of leaves one stunned. It's like it's an immersion, and it's a transformational.
There's a lot to learn.
There's a lot there. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing like who everyone, just brief context of who everyone was, because I haven't read just very little,
Yeah.
Parts in like Srila Prabhupada's lectures
Yeah.
refers to Chaitanya Charitamrita, but
Allison saying you're appreciating the context, a little bit of kind of who are these personalities, what's the time frame in the chronology. Thanks for sharing that.
Hare Krishna.
Kim.
Can you hear me? Can you hear? One thing, the whole story was like there's so many lessons packed into every inch of that story. But one thing I just liked, a lot of times I like to go back to where I see like a continuity or something from things you read in the Bible, and Jesus would say, "Give Caesar's things to Caesar." So, I just found that interesting that Chaitanya, felt the same way about that. I don't know, like just sattvic thing, to do. So I just enjoyed that. But there were so many things in the story I took lesson from. So thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing, Kim. Yeah, how you're moved by so many of the principles in the story, and then that reference to Jesus's pastimes. There are similarities. Jesus says something to the effect of, "Yeah, give to God what belongs to God. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar." So it's very similar. Of course, I'm not sure if Caesar was like a pure devotee on the level of Maharaj Prataparudra, like that. But it's thanks for bringing that, because that highlights, because we could think that like Lord Chaitanya can say it's just like, well, all the money should be used just to support kirtan, this and that. But it's no, that the government, now at the same time, this particular government, the king is all about supporting kirtan and prasad distribution and Bhagavatam, this particular government. But yeah, so Lord Chaitanya, I know, like I said, it's a sattvic dharmic principle to be honest, and we get benefits from the government. It's against other discussions, yes, but what's a Maharaj Prataparudra? He's a pure devotee. He's using everything in Lord Chaitanya's service. Still, it's a dharmic principle. We get benefits, so to pay taxes. Thanks for that. Those references, Kim.
I like how everyone had like, maybe not everyone, maybe not the prince, but maybe not, I don't know about the servants either. It seems like it was a whole lesson in principles, like which principles are the priority.
Yeah.
You know, and the king being humble, and I don't know, anyway, I'm just thinking that everyone sort of played their part. Yeah, I don't know about the prince, but anyway. One thing I was curious about was like when should we not, like, you know how Lord Chaitanya preferred to not be disturbed?
Yeah.
When should we not disturb our,
What's that?
when should we not disturb our elders and teachers so that they can just focus on Krishna?
Yeah, okay.
You know.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. It's a very relevant question, and so so they did come to Lord Chaitanya. Of course, they didn't want to disturb him, but like they knew that Gopinatha is so dear to him, and this or that. So it's a good question. Not a format it's so relevant to Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, really from even just maybe a few years after he came to the West, the movement started. Prabhupada was like, okay, I want to be relieved of all management and administration. I mean, very early, by 1970, and just focus on writing and writing books like that. So he was always saying he wants to be relieved of management administration, and it never happened. I mean, he set up managerial structures, this and that. In some cases, he would say that, but the managers, they're causing me more headache than this and that, and so till pretty much till November 14th, 1977, Prabhupada was involved with the details and things like that. But the principle is there that he wants to be relieved and focus on his writing, on his bhajan. Never actually happened. The main reason, because he kept expanding the movement because of his potency. But your question is good. It's a nice mentality to consider like that, for our elders, for ourselves, right? When it's focusing and more sadhana as the decades go on. Same time, Prabhupada, he just kept preaching vigorously, but he would talk about just going into like that. And then he gave us so many books anyway. He would get up at 1 a.m. to dictate his purports. So
it seems like in Kali Yuga and in Western world, for those of us who aren't trained in whatever practice it is, but basically not trained in principles, Vedic principles or Sattvic principles.
Yes.
Not even just Vaishnavas, but
yeah.
Kali Yuga, like we're all so conditioned and to have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
It's like we're really needy, like towards anybody who actually has knowledge to teach us how to do everything and how to put it all in perspective. I mean, I know I've come to you and Mother Malini
Yeah.
ton. I think a lot of people come to both of you a lot to get it all straight, like what is the principle here?
Mhm.
And how, so it's like such a mess, really. And that it's like, I don't know if you'll ever be left alone or mother-in-law be left alone to just focus. Or if you're getting it, I'm just thinking of both of you, like how much support do you get to focus on Krishna when the rest of us are coming to you with so much, not even just spiritual questions, it's just material affairs. I'm trying to figure so much out. Anyway, I'm just thinking how it's such a mess. Anyway, thank you for your patience, support.
Hare Krishna, Damayanti. Well, and also speaking for myself, whatever, whether I'm in this body for another day or another 45 years would take this body to 108. You know, whatever. I mean, I don't know how things will unfold, but I imagine myself being ever more enthusiastic to share whatever drops of knowledge I have from Srila Prabhupada. Like that. That's not, I would never want to retire from that. Yeah. At the same time, you made some important distinctions and like that, but I just like to share this format or one-on-one. I would think I'm really eager to do that eternally. Thank you. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.